Do you believe it's in our national security interest at the present time to remain in the JCPOA? That's a yes or no question.
Yes, Senator, I do.
That was Defense Secretary Jim Mattis there taking a question last week about the JCPOA, otherwise known as the Iran nuclear deal. President Trump is prepared to go against the advice of his Secretary of Defense, his Secretary of State, his National Security Advisor, and top generals. Tomorrow, he's expected to announce that he will decertify the Iran deal, an agreement made during the Obama administration. Officials confirmed to NBC News that Congress has been briefed on the decision. The Washington Post reporting this week that Trump, quote, threw a fit when it became clear his advisors weren't on board. Back with me, Jeremy Bash and Rick Stengel. Jeremy, how disconcerting is it around the world, and maybe even within the intelligence community and the military establishment, to hear constant examples of what Bob Corker said months ago now, this pattern of instability and incompetence, to throw a fit, this fury, this rage that he displays when national security advisors are simply, laying out their best recommendations and are among the people the most acutely aware of the fact that the president will make the ultimate decision.
It's not just recommendations that he's failing to accept, Nicole. He's failing to accept facts. The intelligence community brought him an assessment that Iran was in compliance with their obligations under the agreement with major world powers to stop and freeze their nuclear program. And that was the assessment not just of our intelligence community, but of the Joint Chiefs. And the president refused to acknowledge it. But if you think about what he's going to do tomorrow, and I've read through the White House talking points that have been circulating tonight, the president's basically going to tirade against Iran. There are a lot of things about Iran what they're doing in the region that I actually agree with the president's assessment that Iran is doing some very bad things. America should counter Iran's activities. But basically, he's going to say, so I won't sign a piece of paper. But Congress, if you want to keep the sanctions waived, that's fine with me. In essence, I'm for the deal before I was against it. And it's going to be a very muddled presentation tomorrow, in my view.
Rick Stengel, it's hard with this president. If you go back in time, there was a lot of honest intellectual debate in this country, not just the right and the left, but even within the Democratic Party, there was a robust debate. There was a full-throated lobbying effort on the part of the Obama administration. The Secretary of Energy was one of the top folks asked to lobby for the Iran deal. The vice president was deployed. But this is different. This seems to be concern not about decertifying, which is not the same thing as ripping up the Iran deal, which was what the president promised to do. This seems to be concerned that the motive is something other than what Jeremy just described. Bringing more. This was just a nuclear deal. One of the critiques was that it didn't have any of Iran's terrorist activities in the neighborhood included. It didn't have any. It didn't free all of the people Iran was holding. Those are legitimate critiques of the deal. But it seems to me that the conversation we're having is one about Donald Trump blowing up everything just because Obama did it.
Right. The reflexive opposition to anything that Barack Obama has done without looking at the facts, as Jeremy said, is disturbing. But again, let's look at the way the treaty was negotiated. The idea was to keep separate the fact that Iran was a terrorist state. Why? Because you don't want a terrorist state to have nuclear weapons. So the clear urgency was to prevent them from nuclearizing their arsenal. It wasn't about getting them out of Gaza. It wasn't about stopping their support for Syria, for what they're doing in Yemen. That's a further step. And all of these nuclear treaties are always negotiated as it goes, and then when the time limit comes up, you renegotiate again. It's not like it just ends after 10, 20, or 30 years. So I think it was very rational the way the Obama administration did it, and it was with the realization that Iran did a lot of bad things, but it was to prevent them from having a nuclear weapon.
And Nicole, can I just add? Yeah, it's interesting. In the president's statement tomorrow, he says the Obama administration was inappropriately and overly focused on Iran's nuclear program. I mean, come on, give me a break. Had the Obama administration ignored the intelligence that it received when it came into office, that Iran had a centrifuge facility at Qom, underground, buried in a mountain, too small for a civilian program, had the Obama administration ignored that, Republicans would be all over the Obama administration. It's a crazy claim. And I just have to add one more thing, which is one of the things that the Trump administration has done, I think, to empower Iran, and actually where they've been very weak on Iran, is that they haven't taken on Iran in Syria. They've left in place Iran's proxy, the Assad regime, by empowering the Russians and by canceling a program to arm anti-Assad forces. That's something this Trump White House did. That is a very pro-Iran move.
And the alignment, the partnership, the refusal to condemn Russia also indirectly strengthens Iran, doesn't it?
It does, because in effect there is an alliance there between the Iranians, the Syrian regime, and the Russians in Syria, and the Trump administration has been unwilling to take that on.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.